friends, welcome to the Jazz Ranch. Welcome back. And you know, I got a comment from a individual recently. He asked me, he said, why am I wearing the shades, you know, the dark glasses? Is it your sensitivity to the light, or is it you're trying to be cool? And I said, well, you know, it's the same concept as what Louis Armstrong said once when someone asked him what jazz was. He said, well, if you have to ask what jazz is, then you will never know. Of course, I was just kidding. Of course, it's sensitivity to the light. Too many years on Broadway and those bright lights, of course. Anyway, I have something special for you this evening, and it's based on a question that I had, or a comment that I had from a person that wrote to me on my YouTube channel asking about the circle of fifths and how it works in tunes. So I'm going to try to break it down for you and dissect it in this particular video, and I'm going to use a song called Just in Time as a good example of how to use the cycle of fifths in a song. So here we go now with Just in Time and the cycle of fifths, or the circle of fifths, or the circle of fourths, or the cycle of fourths, whatever you want to call it. Okay, here we go. So on one of my videos on 2-5-1s through the cycle of fifths, I got a comment from Dave. You know Dave. Anyway, he said this: Hi Kent, so it seems you're not going up by a fourth or down by a fifth, but down by a whole tone. I noticed it doesn't sound too bad, but a question: does jazz or popular music in general usually do that? Doesn't it more often move up by a fourth or sometimes modulate up by a whole tone? I know it makes for smooth voice leading to go down by a whole tone, and it's easier to play. But I'm just wondering if there's that much value in practicing it that way. Well, I thought that was a very good question, so I thought I would take it up in a video. So now I'm going to address his question. So now I want to start out by referring to my book, Chapter 9, on chord progressions and the cycle of fifths. Now, one reason there's confusion about this is it's often called the circle of fifths and it's often called the cycle of fourths. So it doesn't matter how you call it. You can call it the circle of fifths or the circle of fourths, or you can call it the cycle of fifths or the cycle or the circle of fifths. It doesn't matter, because a fifth is the same as a fourth. It depends on which direction you're going in. In other words, if you're ascending on the piano, a fourth is the same as descending on the piano by a fifth. The important thing to understand is that it has to do with tension and resolution, and it's what creates music, harmonically at least. So we have to understand, here's the circle, that the key of C, if you're in the key of C, the way to get there is to come from the key of G. So G7 is going to take us to C major. And then if we make C into a dominant seventh, it's going to take us to F major. That's the rule. So it goes around the circle in this way, from C to F to B flat to E flat to A flat to D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D. So you go in the direction counterclockwise from tension to resolution, and you're going in the direction of the flat keys, adding one flat at a time until you get down here to the, whether it be G flat or F sharp, you know, it changes here to the sharp keys on the bottom of it, and then it goes in this direction in the sharp keys, diminishing. So it increases in flats here up to the midpoint opposite of C, which is also the tritone, which is a fascinating concept, in which enharmonically it could be F sharp or G flat. So we go into, you know, so 1 flat, 2 flats, 3 flats, 4 flats, 5 flats, 6 flats, or 6 sharps, down to 5 sharps, down to 4 sharps, 3 sharps, 2 sharps, 1 sharp, no sharps or flats. So it's a perfect system, and it's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, just like the 12 months of the year. All the things that are 12 in our system within our universe. So the 12 keys are in alignment with the 12 hours within the day and 12 hours in the night, day and night, the dichotomy of that, the 12 months of the year. A dozen is 12. Many things are 12. That's a magic number. And it's cosmic. Now, the fact that 12 is a magic number, a cosmic number, is understood simply by the fact that there are 12 notes in our scale. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Then it repeats. And there are 12 keys. Each one of those notes represent a different key. And there are 12 months in the year. There's 12 hours in the day, 12 hours in the night, AM, PM, 12 in a dozen, many other things that are 12. So now, understanding the cycle of fifths or cycle of fourths is something you can do on the piano, because it has so much aspect to it and depth to it, in terms of you can see the whole spectrum of this. And within 6 octaves from here to here, we can see the complete cycle of fifths or fourths, whether we descend or ascend. So if we're ascending, it's going to be in fourths. You may say, well, why? Well, because C is no sharps or flats. If we go in the direction of flats, or the direction of tension resolution, we're going to add 1 flat. Now, you might say, well, what does tension resolution mean? Well, it just means that within music, we don't have music unless we have a tonic and a dominant. So if C is the dominant, then F is the tonic. And if C is the tonic, then G is the dominant. That's the important thing you need to know. In other words, there has to be tension between the two aspects, or the polarity between tension and resolution. That's what makes music, you know. Right? Dominant, tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant, subdominant, and so on. Now we can start on C, and in 6 octaves we can play the complete cycle. Starting on C, no sharps or flats, add 1 flat, up a 4th, F. F resolves to B flat, which is 2 flats. B flat 7 resolves to E flat, which is 3 flats. E flat moves to A flat, which is 4 flats. A flat moves to D flat, which is 5 flats, or you can call it C sharp, 5 sharps. Resolves to G flat, which is 6 flats, or if it's F sharp, it's 6 sharps. Resolves to B, or C flat, which is 5 sharps. B is 5 sharps. Resolves to E, which is 4 sharps. Resolves to A, which is 3 sharps. Resolves to D, which is 2 sharps. Resolves to G, which is 1 sharp. Resolves to C. So there you have it in ascending motion in fourths. Now we can see the same principles working in reverse by descending in fifths. So I'm going to start way up here now on the top note. You won't see it, but it's a C. I'm going to go down to an F, which is 1 flat, down to a B flat, which is 2 flats, down to an E flat, which is 3 flats, down to an A flat, which is 4 flats, down to a D flat, which is 5 flats, down to a G flat, which is 6 flats, and that could also be F sharp, which is 6 sharps, down to a B, which is 5 sharps, down to an E, which is 4 sharps, down to an A, which is 3 sharps, down to a D, which is 2 sharps, down to a G. And we're going to go beyond the scope of what you can see. G is now 2 sharps down to the C. So that actually took 7 octaves, because we're doing it in fifths now. That was 7 octaves. Now I can show the same principle within 3 octaves if I ascend and descend in fourths and descend in fifths, like this. Starting on C, up in fourths, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B. Now descend in fifths, E, A, D, G, C. Now the opposite of that would be to start on the C and do the reverse of that. In other words, descend in fifths, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. Now ascend in fourths, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, C. Now I can do the same thing, the circle of fifths, up a fourth or down a fifth in 2 octaves. So I'm going to go up a fourth and then down a fifth like this. And it's going to be within these 2 octaves. Up in fourths, down in fifths. Now I can do the reverse of that, down in fifths, up in fourths like this. Or now this gets progressively more interesting as we reduce it down to 1 octave. We've done with 6 and 7 octaves and 3 octaves and 4 octaves. Now, it's just 12 notes, right? So we can put it all within the 12-note octave. So that's the way it works, like this. Up a fourth to F, up a fourth to B flat, down a fifth to E flat, up a fourth to A flat, down a fifth to D flat, up a fourth to G flat, up a fourth to B, down a fifth to E, up a fourth to A, down a fifth to D, up a fourth to G, and down a fifth to C. So there you have it. So now I'm going to get into Dave's question. Now, the first thing I want to do is start by putting chords to the roots. So the easiest one to do, you can do it in majors or minors or whatever. I'm going to do it in dominants because dominants want to resolve to another chord. Then we can resolve a dominant to a dominant, and it wants to keep resolving. So here it is, and this is very fascinating. You know, here's the progression, right? Up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, and so on, like that. But we can just take the C7 with the third and the seventh and move down chromatically in the right hand in half steps, and we'll be playing the proper chord. In other words, C7 resolves to F7. Now what is it? Root, third, flat 7. Resolves to F7, root, 7th, third. It reverses, you see. B flat 7, root, third, flat 7, E flat, root, 7th, third, and so on. Like that. So again, here you have it. So now the next example would be to play them in 2 5s. Those were just 5 dominants. 2 5s would be a minor 7 to an F7. Why? Because, you know, in the scale tone triads, the 2 is always a minor 7, and the 5 is the dominant 7. So 2 5 1 would be D minor 7, G7. If it resolves, it's going to go to C major 7. If it doesn't resolve, it can go to D minor 7, G7, and then continue the cycle by going to C minor 7 and B flat 7, resolving to B flat minor 7 to E flat 7, and so on. So that's what you have here. And this is also a very simple move chromatically in the right hand. So it goes like this: C minor 7, F7, B flat minor 7, E flat 7, A flat minor 7, D flat 7, F sharp minor 7, B7, E minor 7, A7, D minor 7, G7, C major 7. Now everything I've talked about so far is just a means of introduction so that you understand the cycle of fifths. But now to apply it to something practical, we want to talk about how it works in tunes. And most commonly, what we have is the 2 5 1 progression. Now, you know, that's a 2 5 1 progression there. This is a 2 5 1 progression there. But generally, it's more practical in the bass line to go up a fourth, down a fifth. Good voice leading, right? In other words, bass lines, rather than ascending or descending, we want to stay within an octave. And so what happens is on the 2 5 1, if we have C minor, well, let's just start out with the C. We could start with the D, it would be this. But starting out with the C minor 7 would be this. C minor 7 with the flat 7 there and the minor third there. And then going here, the F7 with the third and the 7th, and then down here to the, resolving it to a B flat major there. Or we could make it a major 7 doing it like this. So we'd have this. Now the progression would be, now why would we go from there to B flat minor? Is because we want to move through the cycle. We want to go 1 flat, C to 1 flat to 2 flats. Then we want to move to 3 flats, 4 flats. So we want to go through the cycle. So we want to go from the C minor, we want to go. Now we want to move from the B flat minor as the 2 chord to the E flat as the 5 chord, resolving to the A flat. See, we're going through the cycle now. We want to go to the A flat as the 2 chord minor to the D flat as the 5 chord to the G flat as the 1 chord now. Then make that minor G flat or F sharp to B7, the E major as the 1 chord. Now make the E as a minor as the 2. Hope I'm not losing you with this here. 2, 5, 1, and then 5. Now we've done only one set because we've only done 6 of them. So we now have to go up a half step to C sharp and do the other set. It would be this C sharp, F sharp, B major 7, then B minor 7, E7, A major 7, then A minor 7, D7, G major 7, then G minor 7, C7, F major 7, F minor 7, B flat 7, E flat major 7, then E flat major 7, E flat minor 7, A flat 7, D flat major 7. Okay, now those are the 2 sets. Now we could do them chromatically like this, you know, if we wanted to. And then go, you see? And then so on, like that. Like we could do them chromatically, but it makes more sense to put them into 2 5-1s like this. And so on, you know. That's how it works in music. Now I'm going to show you how it works in the tune Just in Time. Before I do that, I want to tell you that 2 5-1s don't have to always descend. They can ascend, they can go. They can ascend, they can, you know, go chromatically ascending or descending. It doesn't matter. They can move all around, you know. In other words, they can move in different intervals. They can move all over the place. But in the case of Just in Time, you have, let's get it up here. Now, Just in Time is written by Julie Stein, but it's very interesting, it rhymes, that it has the same line repeating melodically. It keeps repeating that same line. Now, how boring would that be if it was just based on a few chords, like or 1 chord? And so on, you know, it's because of the cycle of fifths, that he's using the cycle of fifths harmonically, that makes this song really sing and be a great song. So it starts out on the 1 chord, goes to the 3 chord in dominant form. Now you can put like a 2 in front of that if you like, you know, so you can go C, B to E, it goes to an A. So it's going through the cycle, right? It's going B, E now. E wants to go to A wants to go to D wants to go to G wants to go to C wants to go to F. So that much of the cycle is right in that song, like this. A7, D7, right? G7, C, F7. Now here it changes and goes to the 2-5 of the relative minor and into the A minor, which is the relative minor. So there you need to have a change. You know, if we kept going around the cycle, it would be boring. But he does a lot of the cycle there. And now you can put the two chords in front of those. You can put B minor into E7, E minor into A7, A minor 7 into D7, and D minor into G7, with G7. I mean, this is a personal thing if you want to put the 2 5s. You don't have to put them in. There's different things you can do, but particularly in the solos, you might want to use them more than on the tune, because the solos, the 2 5s allow you to do things, allow you to have more variation in the scales you're going to play on by using the 2 5s. But then the relative minor here, down in steps, ascending, descending, I mean. Then another descending line here. So what I did was I used a 2 5 there. So wherever you have a dominant 7th chord, you can always put the related 2 in front of it. In other words, if it's a D7, you can put the A minor in front of it. If it's a G7, you can put the D minor in front of it. Now you can make your harmonic concept of your song more complex, more interesting. There's a lot of things you can do. I won't talk more about it, but I just want to emphasize in this particular tune how I'm using that cycle of fifths and how that is important to understand how tunes work. And so a good exercise is to play them in cycles like this, where you're doing 2 5-1s through the cycle. That's the point. Signing off from the Jazz Ranch, thanks so much for joining me this evening. Please write to me, and if you have questions, I'd love to hear from you. You have comments, I always try to respond to my comments. You will see if you read my comments that I do respond. It might take me a month, but I will eventually respond. And you know, Hermie Dressel's still up there, and he's wearing shades too. You know, and he's still saying to you, swing loose. And we'll see you next time around. Bye-bye.